We're good. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Tulio Siragusa. Welcome back to Dojo Live. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. Today, we're talking about AI and machine learning, specifically its impact on consumer packaged goods. I'd like to welcome my co-hosts today, Carlos Ponce in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and
Hey,
Tim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico. And of course, our guest today, is Yaniv Sarig, who's the co-founder and CEO at the Mohawk Group. Yaniv, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Welcome
having
to
me.
the show. So before we get into the topic today, which is an interesting topic about how AI is changing the face of CPG, let's get to know you a little bit. If you could please introduce yourself. I hope I said the last name correctly. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, you said it pretty well, actually. So, hey, everyone. I'm Yaniv Sarig, co-founder and CEO of Mohawk Group. Some background about myself. I lived a little bit all over the world. I was born in Israel. I spent most of my childhood in Europe, between Brussels and Paris, and then went back to Israel. Lived there and studied there for a little bit. Worked at a couple startups in the tech world. I've pretty much made my career in technology. I'm a software engineer by training, and I led software engineering teams at small companies, startups, different industries, as well as larger companies, including publicly traded companies. And I co-founded Mohawk Group 6 years ago with two other friends, also coming from a tech background. Our vision was to rethink the entire concept of a consumer company, designed from the ground up for e-commerce. We really believed back then that e-commerce was going to impose some very challenging obstacles for traditional consumer companies, and that it really requires kind of rethinking the entire concept of a company that uses technology, data, an agile supply chain to better adapt to the markets of retail of the future. And so excited to be here today and talk about how technology can influence CPG in the future.
Excellent. So how long has the Mohawk Group been around?
6 years.
6 years. Okay, so you guys are not a startup, but definitely well on your way. A lot of lessons learned. Let's see what we can discover together about this journey. Carlos, what's the topic of conversation? Let's dive right into it.
absolutely. Thank you, Tulio, and thanks, Yaniv, for being with us today. So, Tulio, we're going to be speaking about AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and how they revolutionize consumer packaged goods. So, in other words, we're going to be elaborating on how software is changing consumer packaged goods forever. So that's what we're going to have our guest speak to us about. And quick question, first question that I have for you, Yaniv, welcome to the show, is why did you choose this particular topic, and why did you think it was relevant for this day and age? Let's start with that. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So when we started the company in the very early stages, all the founders come from a tech background, and through a set of events, we got interested in e-commerce, and particularly we looked at a lot of technology companies have been very focused on the retail side, on the store, reinventing the store itself through technology. If you look at Amazon and Alibaba, they've put a lot of technology to reinvent the concept of where you buy. But the companies that are making the products designed for those virtual shelves have not really evolved that much. And we wanted to take a look at the problem from their end. And one of the things we realized as we tinkered with the data in the very early stages is that the way consumers shop has dramatically changed online. If in traditional brick and mortar retail, we would walk into a store and we really didn't have a lot of data, we didn't have these incredible devices we all carry today with us, right, that are so powerful. Because we had no data, because we had no access to information, we really had to rely very heavily on what brands told us, the product was all about. And what we're seeing today, if you look at how consumers are shopping in the online retail platforms, they're actually using data in a very heavy way. They're doing their own due diligence on products. They're searching for products in very elaborate ways. They're comparing prices and they're comparing reviews. And so it seemed like this incredible shift in the way consumer behaved required a completely different kind of look at how to understand the customer and how to use data to really think like them, right? And a lot of what Mohawk is doing is building a data engine that is trying to understand trends in how consumers are searching for products, what they like and don't like, what the products they see, how certain products capture more market share, what are the features or characteristics of a product that's successful, and really with that data, can we kind of come back and compile a better product, a product that could iteratively grab more market share, and more importantly, just better answer the customer demand.
I find that mix really interesting. Hi, Kim here.
Hi.
Thank you for being on the show. Like, where there's this marrying of what happens in brick and mortar, at least in my personal experience, what happens in brick and mortar and what happens online. And I think in my case, they actually merge. I'm one of those people where personally, I prefer to actually physically buy the product in a store. I like to touch it, feel it, and kind of, get the sense. But what I do is maybe I'll see something and I'll grab my phone and I'll check real quick, what is the review on Amazon say for this? What are these people saying? Are they returning it? Is it broken? And so I find myself actually marrying the two. Do you find that to be the trend with a lot of people, or am I unique in that matter?
No, you're talking about a phenomenon that's very well known with traditional retailers. Traditional retailers are seeing more and more the exact behavior you're describing, which is as you're in the store, and yes, maybe you want to just be kind of like more closer to the product before you buy it. The online experience might not be the right one for you. As you described, I think a lot of retailers are seeing many consumers using data. Again, it goes back to this concept of using data. Now you have this data, right? In the past, you walked to a store, you had nothing. You just knew that the brand told you that this was the quality and price you were going to get, but you didn't have that data. And so the behavior you're describing is exactly what we're pointing to, which is now that you have the data, even in the store, despite the fact that you know the brand, you're going to go to Amazon and you're going to see how many reviews do they have, or consumers saying good things or bad things about that. And so whether you decide to shop online or in the store, as you described very well right here, this is the kind of behavior we're seeing from consumers. They are using the data that's out there in the vast public space to figure out what's the best decision they can make around the products they want. And what we are doing first and foremost is trying to analyze that. We capture around a terabyte of data every day from many different public domains of stores. And again, we analyze the shifts, we analyze the dislocations, we analyze the way consumers kind of like interact with the products and search for them based on that data and what that tells us about what they're looking for.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Carlos.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is the lip reading segment of the show.
Yeah, that's what you do when you have a noisy dog as a neighbor. So Yaniv, from the three of us here, I'm the least engineering minded. This is because I function with my right hemisphere, so I'm the layman here. So in that context, I would appreciate if you could tell us. Well, you're an engineer. You have an engineering background, as you stated at the beginning of the conversation. So when I see topics like AI and machine learning, consumer packaged goods, so it might make a lot of sense for people who have this engineering mindset. But my question is, what does this mean for like the regular average consumer? It's like, if I want to, as Kim said, I just want to buy something, because what does it mean for me? And, right. Or how do I interact with machine learning and AI as a regular, everyday run-of-the-mill consumer? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, independent of our company, you probably are interacting with machine learning algorithms pretty much all day. I think I'd say, the vast majority of retailers, service providers out there are obviously putting AI to work and machine learning to work to basically try to make better decisions for their business at scale, right? I think a lot of times people, there's a lot of misconceptions about what machine learning and AI do, right? I think the vast majority of people think of it as almost like a science fictional type of technology that is able to kind of like magically resolve all our problems. That's not the case, right? Really, the big difference with machine learning and AI is the adaptability to the environment. When you, in try to basic terms, right? When you write code, you typically write a set of if this, else that. You try to make the code kind of cover every possible decision. Machine learning algorithms are just a lot more adaptable. They're able to they're built in a way where they're able to kind of like look at the data and its evolution and change the decisions they're making without changing the code to adapt to what they've learned from the reaction of what they're doing, right? So if they're changing a price, for example, of a product that you're seeing, the engine on Amazon side, the machine learning on Amazon side, is going to try to figure out what's the best time of the day to price the product at this number or that number. They're going to look at a lot of data to try to figure out and predict what's going to basically get the best result for you and for them, right? And again, the power of machine learning algorithms is that they can, with vast amounts of data, be trained to make the right decisions without necessarily having to rewrite all the code or to, oh, we didn't think about this condition, let's go and try to put another another command here to make sure in the code that if we go down this route, it's just this adaptability that doesn't require re-engineering the software all the time. And it's allowing, really more than anything, it's allowing to do things at scale, right? There are very few tasks today, pretty much almost none, except maybe chess, where machine learning is better than humans, right? It's not about necessarily being better. It's about being able to make a lot of decisions at very, very large scale while reducing the need for human input, right? So even if algorithms make decisions that a human, if they had to just one-on-one make the same kind of analysis and decide something, typically by an order of magnitude, humans will win. But the problem is humans can't be around making decisions all the time. Machine learning can all the time, day and night, look at all the things that are happening in the business and adjust.
All right, so Yaniv, just want to frame this a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Historically, consumer packaged goods relied heavily on the design of the packaging and other intrinsic values to attract consumers to make a purchase, right? There's definitely the brand historical value and reputation, but color, design, all these things had an impact, and most of it was done through focus group studies, etc. Not real time that you can achieve with data actually tracking behaviors. Now, what we're hearing is what's changing is that's not enough. You have to actually adapt to consumer trends and desires. So who is actually the customer here? Who's your customer? Who's buying your solution? Is it the retailer, the commerce site, the CPG companies themselves? Who are the actual customers?
Yeah, maybe it's good, obviously, for me to kind of give a little bit more color on the company, right? We are, as I described earlier, right, we're trying to recreate the consumer product platform of the future. And what's very unique about our business is that we're a company that's a hybrid of a tech company, and we actually, the way we make money is we sell products. So what we've built with our technology, first and foremost, is used by us today. I'll come back to that later. We are planning over time to make it available to others, but right now the main core business is to use the technology we have to basically build a better, more efficient consumer company, where the model of the business is that we use our software to analyze a lot of data. We identify certain opportunities for making products slightly better or vastly better, or a combination of features that maybe doesn't exist in a particular product that people are looking for. We look for signals in the way consumers are shopping today to tell us, where is it that we can potentially make a product that's going to be successful. And then what's unique about our business is that data, we actually turn it into a real product. So today, our company has has 11 consumer brands that we own, meaning that we are our own clients, right? So we use our own software, and the brands that we build are basically managed through that software. So the software allows the brands to figure out what product to make. And then once the products arrive to the market, the software allows us to automate things like forecasts, right? How many products do we need? How many units are we going to need? It allows us to automate pricing. What should be the price of the product today, tomorrow, over the weekend, every hour, literally, right? Which advertising should we use? Like once you have a product that you sell online, you are, there's thousands of ways consumers can find your product. And obviously one of the best ways to get in front of them is to advertise your product. Now, if you sell, I don't know, like a cookware set, right? And you might have people searching for stainless steel cookware set or non-stick cookware set or 1,000 other searches, your ability to figure out all the time what's the best place for me to advertise. And remember, when you advertise for this on Google or on Amazon, it costs money to do that, right? So it's all about an equation of how much you have to pay for advertising and how much money you're making on the other side. Analyzing how well that's doing is very complex. It requires you to look at thousands of searches, your competitors' on every search, right? You search for something, you're going to see many products. Which one, if you show up there, how well are you doing versus your competitor? All these very complex decisions, typically humans don't have time to look at them more than once a week or a month, certain times, right? What we're trying to do here is we're trying to, through our software, take our employees and give them superpowers, allow them to basically manage a very large amount of products across many different brands with as much automation and decision making that the system can do for them, right? And then, you know, so that's another part. Then there's shipping, last mile shipping. How well can we ship? How can you get the inventory to get better set up in the warehouses so we can ship closer? So all these problems that a consumer company has as it's trying to adapt to e-commerce, we're solving first and foremost for ourselves through our software. With, as I said, in the future, we're definitely opening the door also to potentially offer the software as a service. Although right now it's a very small piece of our business. The majority of our business comes from us using the software to make products and to manage them in the most efficient way.
Thank you. I think you made a really strong case for the business case, right? The company side. How are you also able to use your tool for the customer side? Like, how are you using this to make it perhaps more customer centric, to really identify not just how the company can benefit, but what are my consumers needing and wanting, and how can I make it more about them? Is that something that you're also looking into?
That is probably the only reason the company exists. We believe that the way consumer brands and retailers used to work in the past was not consumer centric enough. We think that what was happening, and let's take a step, like let's go back 40, 50 years ago, before we had the internet and you know, and all the amazing ways we have today to shop, right? When you were in a store and you had to choose, say, go back to cookware set, right? You would walk into a store, you would go to the aisle, and usually on the shelf, you would see maybe 5 to 10 options that you typically had seen on TV before. And because you had no data, your reliance was entirely in what the brand has been able to put in your mind in terms of recognizing value in their brand, right? So you had no really, you know, any way to kind of measure that. You just had to know that you knew that this brand meant that you're going to pay this price, and this brand meant you're going to make that price, right? And so there was no way to validate it. You had to trust that, right? And then, you know, the whole point of a brand was to say, look, this is the cost of my product. I'm going to try to create as much buffer as possible to give myself a margin by basically making a brand. And the more I can make my brand valuable, the more I make money, right? So like the idea was to take the cost that it costs you to bring the product to the customer, to the retailer, and then try to build as much brand value here so you can make as much money as possible. What we're saying is, look, that doesn't work anymore, because consumers, first of all, are empowered with much more data. There is a lot of ways for them to measure the real value of a product. They don't have to necessarily just look at the brand. When they go online, they have 10,000 options, and they can look again at the reviews and the price point and compare the features, and they can make a decision that's not rooted in what they've seen on TV, but what other consumers tell them, right? And so what we're saying is, if this is the cost for you to bring the product to the market, we're going to want to put our price here. Now, that you're going to tell me, but you're never going to make any money, right? And so what we're doing with machine learning and automation and software is we're taking this down. We're trying to reduce the cost. The way we're going to make margin is not by trying to convince consumers that we're the best brand out there and it's worth paying extra for us. We're going to do that by optimizing everything in our operation so we can get better value for the customer at a better price. All the things that other companies are doing manually, we're automating so that we can take that value and get it back to the customer and to us as well, right? We want to obviously, we have a business, we want to make money and we want to have strong margins. But again, it's coming from using technology to be more optimal, to be able to manage more products with less fixed cost.
So the madmen are rolling in their graves.
They had their own part of contribution to the evolution of consumer brands and retail. And yeah, maybe, to them it might sound like blasphemy, but we believe that that's the future.
What are we talked about economic fallout or consequences or impact, but what about the ecological impact? I imagine that that's also making this smaller.
Yeah, I won't pretend that we are saving the planet by any means, right? There's still a lot to do there, I think, globally, and I think a lot of very big, I think there's a lot of thinking at the global level that has to come and answer that. But to a certain extent, what you're saying is somewhat right? We're trying to be as accurate as possible around, is this product really needed, right? We're not gonna make another product because someone in our company thinks it's a great idea, or they're passionate about it, or they think that because we have a brand that's in kitchen, we must have all these other products, where the data clearly shows us that, yeah, consumers are very happy with what's out there. There's no need for another XYZ, right? And so from that perspective, yes, I think you could say that we're somewhat, again, I can't pretend that we are ecological by any means, but I think there is a little bit of incremental saving in terms of like not putting as much stuff into, again, we're trying to be very, very accurate. We're bringing product to market only where we can see that there's a real business and a real need, and avoiding certain products where we just don't see, where the market is saturated and there's no really need for another version of it, right?
To just end up in the landfill.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Yaniv, I want to go back to a point you made, which I thought was really compelling, right? This idea of there's a set price point that a consumer is willing to pay for a product, whether you're not going to convince them above that. There's too much information, too much insights, too much knowledge they have access to. That's not going to get them past that, right? So the way you make more margin, as you said, is by reducing the cost below that, the cost to produce the product. So are you creating a vehicle to give feedback to the retailers, the consumer packaged goods companies, on what they can improve, either in the packaging or the product itself? Or how is that working to enable that? Do you have some kind of ecosystem you've created that allows them access to that kind of insight? How's that working?
As I mentioned, the 99% of our business is, our software is used by us to make product and to manage them very efficiently, right? So
you're selling your own product that you're manufacturing yourself.
Yeah, that's what I try to explain. But
right.
But look, we have a small piece of our business. It's still very nascent, where we are helping some brands. It's just not the majority of it. And in the long term, what you're saying is accurate, right? Whether it's us or others, the goal of what our platform does is to optimize every piece of the supply chain. So if it is, you talked about, how do you get better margin by reducing your cost of actually doing business, right? And so, for example, in e-commerce, right, the most expensive piece of your P&L of a product is the last mile shipping. How much does it cost you to ship to the end customer, especially when retailers are fighting to who can ship faster, right? So, for example, part of what our software does, and constantly trying to improve it, right, is to learn and understand how to best put our products into the right warehouses so that the shipping is as short as possible, right? The more you can get optimally, when you sell a product, you have certain distribution around the country based on weather and preferences and others. So we're constantly trying to, for example, part of what the software does is constantly trying to get closer to the end customer statistically, right? If things like again, media buying, not spend on marketing. If you are really able to create something that can make decisions every 15 minutes to an hour about your marketing spend, you can avoid massive amount of marketing that just goes to nowhere, right? I mean, there's a famous sentence that 50% of my marketing is efficient, the other 50, I don't know where it's going, right? We're trying to reduce that to almost nothing by basically, again, teaching our software how to manage the performance of the product from a marketing perspective. So these are two out of like many different pieces of the puzzle. But the more we can automate, the more we can create intelligence around how to make decisions in our business through software, the more our cost of doing business reduces, which means we can now relate back to the end customer.
This is an interesting trend. We've seen a few other companies doing this as well. We actually had a fashion house that was using technology to disrupt that industry, and they're basically manufacturing and producing their own product. It's an interesting thing, that the phenomenon. I'm curious because obviously to prove out something like this, you have to have some sort of control of the entire ecosystem to be able to optimize it. So congratulations on doing that. And I'm assuming that at some point there's potential for licensing this kind of platform, which could potentially have significant growth, or who knows. But congratulations nonetheless for trying to control the environment. We're coming up on time. I want to just shift a little bit about what it's been like building this business. Were there ever a time where, as an engineer, you were like, I want to build a platform, and then decided to go down the path of, okay, well, in order for us to prove this, we got to sell our own product? What was that journey like for you guys? How did you come to those inflection points to make those decisions as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, you said a couple of really important things. First of all, the trend of optimizing for efficiency obviously is around the world in every industry, right? The industries are getting compressed, supply chains are getting compressed, companies are trying to be more and more effective because that's the competitive edge that everyone is seeking, right? I think what's great here is it's also aligned with the customer to give them better value. It's fascinating the question you asked me, like if you're a software guy, like didn't you like at some point in time think maybe we just do just the software? And to me, there's someone, actually I should remember their name, someone a quote that I really like, which is you might not be in the software business, but soon enough there's a software company coming for your business, right? And I think to me technology today is a must-have capability for any business you're in. If you are again, pretty much any field of business, if you do not have a technological mindset, you're not going to be competitive. Look at the biggest companies in the world today, right? Look at, again, Amazon is a retail store, but it's actually a technology company, right? That's the difference. That's what they're winning, right? You look at Uber, right? You could say it's a giant taxi company, but it's actually a technology company, sophisticated technology, managing and orchestrating, millions of cars around the world, right? Pretty much all around you, you'll see that normal kind of more traditional businesses are being reinvented by technologists, right? And that was the appeal here as well. Consumer product companies have existed for a long time, and they've done a great job. But I think there's a new day and age and a new kind of breed of consumer company that's going to arise, where again the ability to use technology to gain an advantage by automating and just gathering data to make better decisions in a very say a proprietary way is where the advantage is going to come from. Because at the end of the day, it's pretty much a level playing field out there. It's not hard to make a product. It's not hard to create a brand. At least, that's not exactly true. It's hard to make a brand very successful, but anyone can go and slap together something that looks like a brand, right? And put it out there on Amazon and Walmart. The question is, how can you manage it at massive scale? Can you manage 100,000 plus products across many different channels with technology that allows you to do that in a very cost-effective way, right? To me, that's the next barrier into building the massive consumer company of the future. You have today in retail, you have in traditional brick and mortar retail and consumer products, you have the biggest players in the world that have grown in the last 50 plus years, the Unilevers, the P&Gs of the world. What is the Unilever of e-commerce consumer brands going to look like, right? That's what we're asking ourselves. And we think, again, that the differentiator is going to come from technology, the ability to really manage a complex supply chain, sourcing, quality control, a business where you have moving physical products on many, many different channels extremely effectively. A challenging but really exciting opportunity and ambition. So we're really grateful for where we are and excited about the road ahead.
What a very accurate quote that you received. We were about to celebrate 15 years as a software engineering services company, and people used to say, who are your clients? And years ago you could say, well, companies who make software, but now we say companies who make money from software.
Yeah,
which is different, right? A lot of companies make money from the use of software, just like you guys. I mean, so congratulations. Just bear with us as we wrap up and we go off the air for wrap up. Thanks for being with us today. We'll have to keep tabs on you guys, see how you progress along and continue to have success. Carlos, what do we got coming up for the rest of the week?
Sure, Tulio, thank you. Tomorrow, we're going to be speaking with Mark Boyce, the CEO of Scribe, and the topic is going to be using technology to improve productivity, profitability, and patient care for healthcare providers. So that's tomorrow right here on Dojo Live. I think that's the one at 10 a.m., by the way, Pacific, not at noon. Okay, so for the record. And on Thursday, we're going to be speaking with Hugo Bowney Anderson and Matthew Ruckland, the principles of Coiled, and the topic is going to be scalable AI for everyone. Those are the two remaining Dojo Live conversations, stories for the week, right here on Dojo Live.
All right. See you back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific, everyone. Stay safe.